Tell me about if I called you and said, I want your help
Mhm.
to command my interview, what would be my experience?
Well, it's funny that you should ask me that now, right?
Welcome to the Vision to Reality podcast. I'm your host, Curtis L. Jenkins, and in each episode, I speak with industry experts, thought leaders, and innovators to break down the strategies, techniques, and methods that turn their ideas into reality. Whether your vision is to scale your business, build and lead a winning team, prepare for your next big career move, this podcast is for you. Let's get started and bring your vision to reality. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Vision to Reality podcast, where leaders come on and talk about how they bring their visions into reality. Today we have an incredible episode lined up. We're talking about interviewing and recruiting, something that can make a huge impact on your career and your life. And to help us deep dive, I have a fantastic guest with me today. Joining me today is Kerrie Muhammad, strategic interview communications coach and recruiter. Kerrie's a certified interview coach and experienced recruiter with nearly 20 years of legal and professional experience. A former prosecutor, she developed deep interviewing skills while working with victims and witnesses, and later brought those skills to the world of coaching. She currently leads recruitment and development at a financial firm while also helping candidates sharpen their communication skills through her coaching practice. Welcome to the show, Kerrie. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Curtis. Thank you for the invitation. I'm honored to be here with you today.
All right, so I'm going to jump right into a quote from you, and I want you to tell me about it. Your accomplishments, here's your quote, your accomplishments are your foundation, but career advancement lies in your ability to confidently communicate your strengths and create a genuine connection in the interview. Who was that quote for?
Well, it was born of a workshop that I did for some college students because, I deal with the college population a lot, both as clients and as candidates. And so I know how strapped for time they are, how organized they have to be, how much in detail they have to be with their time management and all the things that they're juggling. And so they do it all with the goal of being that attractive candidate for their future employer. And so they put all of this effort and work into their product, right, which is them. But then what happens is they've done all of that believing that because my accomplishments are on this resume, you should just read the resume, understand and know who I am, fall in love with me, and recognize that I can do the work and just hire me. And so then when they've done all this work and preparation to get into the career or, seek out that target company, they then fall short on the preparation aspect. And so I basically tell them like, hey, I know what you're doing, and I know that you're working so hard, but the interview is literally the gateway into all of the opportunity that lies before you. So you have to put in equal and actually more effort into the preparation for this particular venue than you are doing for your actual career, because at the end of the day, an employer will not see someone with all of the qualifications and skills and abilities that they're looking for in a job description. They'll see someone that meets a percentage of that. But what's going to take you over the line is your ability to communicate your value, how well you fit within an organization's culture, and how likable and cooperative and just, personable and affable you are in an interview. So you can't do all of the preparation and then get to the threshold and then just drop the ball at that point. And that's what happens in the interview stage that I'm seeing.
Gotcha. And so the way I look at it is it's almost like preparing for a show, right? You get one shot. Okay, so I want to do a little deep dive off of what you just told me.
Mhm.
And I don't want to guess, but who is your key audience? Like who do you serve?
So when I started my coaching practice, my main target was entry-level workers. So those persons coming out of college, coming out of grad school, because my initial exposure to that particular sector was in the last couple of years when I was working as a prosecutor. I was part of the hiring committee. So I was in the top end of the funnel. So all I would see are our law students, right? Second years and third years. And I saw that there was like interview performance gap. Like their paper was wonderful. It was very, descriptive of what they could bring to the table. But then when asked to demonstrate that and communicate that in the actual interview setting, they weren't able to do it. So I focus more on them because I feel like they're more fledgling and they're flailing, right? People that are mid-level to senior level, they have their experience to kind of, rest on, right? Our young career professionals, our first year or first entry level job candidates, they don't have that background to be able to rely on. So they really have to come strong in an interview. And I felt that I could kind of bridge that gap because I interviewed people for my entire career. And so I felt that that was a skill that I could transfer over into another sector and help young people at this point in their life.
Got it. I'm going to go back to the quote, but I'm going to hit 3 key words. The first one being foundation. The second one being confidence, although you say confidently, and the third being connection. Let's start with foundation. Before we go to, I want to understand your foundation, and then I want you to tell me why is foundation important for the people that you serve?
So, in my opinion, your foundation is your footing, right? And so that is what all you really can stand on, right? And so your foundation is born of all of your qualifications, your skills, and your abilities, but it's also born in the work setting of your reputation, right? Of how you treat people, of how you bring yourself to the table and how you allow people to bring themselves to the table and fully be themselves and accept them in that way. So your foundation is everything that makes up your essence. It's that thing that when I come into contact with that person and I feel their chi, I feel like I can understand genuinely how they are as a person, right? Not just skill sets and technical acumen, but the whole person, the holistic person. So that's how I look at your foundation. It's born of a 360-degree view of you internally, because what you think and feel on the inside is how you appear on the outside and what you project.
Okay. And then let's talk about confidence. One of the things that I thought I've written in my book, but it was some research that I did. And I'm a hiring manager, and I know this also well, that confidence will be competence all the time. So as you're talking to your constituency, what do you tell them about confidence and why is it important? Other than the stats that I just provided.
Yeah, I tell them that, who you are, how you speak to yourself and how you think, while you think it's internal, it manifests itself on the outside, and it manifests itself in all types of settings, but mostly in the ones that are uncomfortable. And this is a space, the interview space is an uncomfortable space. So when you come into a space having already negatively talked to yourself, you've defeated yourself before you even entered into the playing field, basically. And so be your own help, right? Rather than your hindrance. So that's how I look at confidence. And that's where we start with our actual coaching, is in that space of building that person from within.
Today, I saw a post on LinkedIn and I responded to it because it hit deep for me. And what it talked about was when you're overconfident or you appear to be overconfident, right? Whether it was a Deion Sanders says, don't let my confidence offend your insecurity. And I think what the person posting was sharing was that sometimes we appear confident, but to the person that's interviewing us, if they are insecure or less than confident, then it may come off as arrogance. And I've also had my fair share of coming off as arrogant because of my confidence. And so when is it too much and what is that right balance, right? And I know that maybe it depends on who the interviewer is, but you don't want to swing from that spectrum of being not so confident to too much confidence. So talk to me about the balance of confidence.
It's a very good question. Let me think of how I would best explain that. For me, when I am talking to candidates so I'm putting on my recruitment hat for a moment, right? when I'm talking to candidates, even young candidates, there are those that they come off with an air, right?
Mm.
As if when they're speaking to you, they're speaking in a space above you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're not making the effort to actually connect with you, right? So a lot of it is you have to read the room, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you have to meet someone where they are. And we are taught that, as interview coaches, that, there's this technique called like mirroring, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so it's kind of like that in the sense that, like, okay, if you're Curtis and I'm Kerry, and I come in the room, and from the first moments that we speak, I can, just from the pleasantries, right, figure
Yep.
out, what kind of personality style or what type of interview style you might have.
Right.
So it's those little things that I coach clients to do in the beginning stages. Like, do not sleep on that opportunity to feel out your interviewer by just saying, hey, so nice to meet you. Thank you for this opportunity. How's your day going so far? Right. And let them talk a little bit. And then you can at least glean a little bit of what their personality is or what they're going through that day. Right. Because it doesn't necessarily have to be dealing with you. It's just who they are in that moment. And then you
Yeah.
can hone in on, okay, how do I have to speak to this person? Is this person very short with me, 1-1, or are they, more outgoing and expressive? Then that's how you
Mm-hmm.
can gauge how you temper your tone, first of all, because it's not sometimes what you say,
Mm-hmm.
how you say it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll give an example. Like, I had one candidate one time where he would have been fascinating, but he went off on a tangent about, like, I asked him, I said, look, you have written on your resume that you're a pilot.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? And he went through like the whole life history of his piloting and how his grandfather, came to him, and he was soaring through the skies. And I was like, okay. I mean, I'm sure that it's amazing and it's a great
Right.
skill, but
Right.
your delivery of the information that was very simply asked is, it's too much
Right.
over here. So you've missed an
Right.
opportunity in that moment to connect on something that is a passion for you, but you're not able to communicate why you have a passion for it.
Got it. Got it. So as you were describing, answering my question around confidence,
Mhm.
I kind of am a visual person in that I get into my own head and I see pictures, I see methodologies. And so I was looking at a meter, right? So on the one side, this was lack of confidence. On the other side, it was overconfidence.
Mhm.
And I think what I heard, or the way I would picture it, is that if I did a little bit of preparation and took some time to connect, ask some questions, that meter sort of swings until it's like right dead in the center.
Mhm.
And then that bingo, that what's at the top is the word connection. Is that a visual way? Got it.
That's the perfect way.
Got it.
I think that candidates, when they sit in front of an interview, whether it's in person or it's virtual or even a one-way video interview, they take on like a deer in headlights almost type of, like, I'm going to be receiving all of these things and I have to take everything in, rather than a forward facing, like, you know what, we're on the same ground, right? Maybe we don't have the same experience level, but we're in the same place right now in this moment. And so I just have to be grounded right here and address who I need to address in the manner I need to address here in this plane.
Got it. Got it. That's awesome stuff. I was going to ask you more about connection, but I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with that already. So now I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to ask who are you and why do you do what you do?
So right now, I am a business owner. But how I came to this point is I am a daughter of two parents that migrated to this country from the island of Jamaica, and they both made their way in entrepreneurship. And so who I am is a child of two people that, while they chose different industries, always had an attitude to, do for self. And if I focus more on my mom and we talk about her and her service in the medical profession, she did for self, but in doing for self, she was doing for others. And so growing up with that and watching that, that was kind of just ingrained in me. So when I came out of, or as I was looking to come out of college, I had to think to myself and take stock, like, what is that thing that you want to do? How do you want to live your life? What do you think your purpose is? And I realized, doing some reading, some research, that my purpose is to serve. Okay, well, when you find that out, you know why you want to serve, right? Because that's the example that was set before you. But how do you want to serve? Well, I want to serve people, but where? People that are in a low state in their life, people that actually need help and they need someone to come meet them where they are and help to pick them back up so that they can walk again. Well, how did I get to that point? I was reading a lot of true crime books by a detective that was talking about different angles of cases and different types of people. And I was like, wow, this is fascinating. Like, he is really like getting involved in people's lives and their heads. And I need a profession like that where I know that I can dedicate my time and be happy about dedicating my time to it because I know I'm serving a good cause. And then it came to, well, how do you then figure out what type of law? Because law by its nature is advocacy. Who do you want to advocate for? Well, I want to advocate for the person that is downtrodden, the person that's underserved. Well, what does that person look like? That person actually looks like me. It looks like a person that is justice impacted by no fault of their own most times. It looks like a person that's in a system that doesn't know how to navigate the system, either as a accused or as a person that's been a victim of a crime. So how do you want to serve? Well, I want to serve those people that make up the wreckage of the impact of that crime. I want to
Mm-hmm.
represent the people that are, left behind in a homicide, or
Mm-hmm.
the victim of a sexual assault whose, dignity is actually sometimes left behind and we have to build that back up. So in my research, I recognized that, while it may not be a popular segment of the law to take on, it was where I was supposed to be because I know that when the people that I was serving would see me, they would feel comforted by my presence there and they would
Mm-hmm.
feel trusting in my guidance. And that is exactly what I experienced in the time that I was a prosecutor through all the different phases of the prosecution, ladder that I went through. So that's who I am. I'm a person that knows that I want to serve. And so when it came down time to leave that type of work, I figured, well, how else can I serve? Let me choose people that are not on their lowest anymore, and let me choose people that are more in a hopeful state. And so that's where really the focus for the entry level job candidate really came in to help.
Got it. Got it. Wow. I mean, part of the story that you were telling me about why you help, I started getting some goosebumps, right? Because I can relate to being sort of a servant leader and one who wants to serve. Very similar in how we just saw something as a child. We, being influenced by parents or mentors and then wanting to help. And so it made me think about someone that you may have helped. And I'm talking about someone that, as you think about the story of how you helped them and changed their life, that it was an emotional and a deep feeling for you. Can you talk about who that person was, what you did for them, and the feeling that it gave you?
Sure. I mean, we've come across in our profession so many people, right? I
Mm-hmm.
did have a victim that was a victim of a sexual assault. And, when she was assaulted, she was actually a person that worked in one of those adult gentlemen clubs. And she ended up, befriending one of the gentlemen and she got a ride home. But what she didn't anticipate was that he wasn't actually going to take her home. And he took her to his apartment where he did what I just described in terms of, the crime. And he held her hostage overnight. And she was so smart that she was able, when, she said, look, my mom's calling me. She's going to worry where I am. Can you just let me take this call? And her mom, knowing her daughter so well, recognized that there was something off. And so she would ask her questions, and the daughter would answer, my victim would answer with clues as to where she was. And so the mother was able to pin her phone, with the iPhone app, and she was able to send units to her. The young lady was actually able, knowing that her mom was sending help, she got up the courage to just like, look, you have to let me go. And she took a moment when he wasn't looking and she ran out the door to the gas station, and that's where she was recovered and helped. And so when I met her, I remember her face to this day. And I talked to her and, she was a person that had such aspirations. She was a business owner. She was a single mom, but she was doing this to make ends meet because her business was not yet off the ground. And so every time I spent hours with her, right? Because we have to put the case into the grand jury and indict it, and then it You have to talk to her throughout the course and tell her what's going on with the updates. And he was actually going to go to trial. And throughout the entire time, I would tell her, you need help. Let me help you. Let me put you in contact with the services that can, it's not going to take away what you experienced, but at least it can help you compartmentalize and move past what you experienced so that you could actually function in society and not be haunted and damaged by this for the rest of your life. And it took months, into the point where I went on maternity leave. And when I was on maternity leave, someone else had to take over the case for me. And they did, and they were able to get a plea, and he pled guilty to 10 years for what he did to her. Because aside from the sexual aspect, there was actual, physical violence attached to it. So he got a 10-year sentence. And I remember when I returned from maternity leave, I happened to be walking past the courtroom to go and watch the sentencing, and she saw me outside, and her mother gave me, they were like, Kerry, and they gave me the biggest hug and thanked me, because at this point in time where now he's being sentenced, she's at a whole different place in her life. She's at a whole different stage. She's morphed, she's gone through the stages of a butterfly, and now she's ready to fly because she went and got the help that I was encouraging her, week after week, month after month. You got to go get this help. And she finally did. And when I saw her, she was like, thank you. And I was like, it's just what we do. That's our purpose here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll remember her to this day.
Got it. Got it. So you went from prosecuting to being a business owner. You made a big pivot.
I did.
And you came up with a company called Command the Interview. So talk to me about what you did in a pivot, because many job seekers are trying to pivot. And then why Command the Interview? What is that about?
So the pivot was a life-changing circumstance, being COVID, right? COVID really caused me to take stock of where I was and what I was doing, and how much longer could I do what I was doing. I loved what I was doing. Like, in the last 7 years of me being a trial attorney, I was only trying sex crimes and homicide cases. So I honed in on to a niche, you know what I mean, that I felt was righteous work, and I loved the work. So then COVID hit, and we were home for a little bit, right? Because we were essential workers. So we were still doing court hearings. We were at homicide scenes when homicides would happen, masked up. We were still doing the work. And it was one of my last cases where this guy just shot this other brother in broad daylight for no reason. And I made the decision at that point. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be involved with, street crimes like this, where there is no rhyme or reason for the things that are happening. And I made the decision at that point that I really just wanted to focus on sex crimes cases. But then a new administration came in, and they had a different idea. So they took me out of sex crimes, and they made me a boss over a satellite office. So I then had my own staff of support staff and my own assistant ADAs that I had to train. I had my own police departments that I had to make relationships with, and court staff of different jurisdictions that I had to make relationships with. And when I realized that I had finally made the relationships and I had made the process smooth, I was like, okay, I've improved the process. I'm pretty done now, because I've done it here. I can do it somewhere else for myself. And I always had the dream of being a business owner back when I was in college anyway. And so I was like, you know what? It's time to pivot. But how do you pivot? Well, you can't just pivot and, start from scratch.
Right.
You have to take your transferable skills and figure out, how can I monetize this?
Yeah.
And so that, plus me watching what was happening on the, interview screening phase that I was in, that portion of my career, the last 2 years when I was on the hiring committee, I was like, oh, this is it right here. I'm just taking my interview skills that are already used for people that are at their lowest, and I'm going to bring it here to people that are right here about to fly, and I'm going to pour my energy into them. And so that is how Command the Interview was born. It was born of me seeing a need that I felt that I could fill. And even if I can't impact the whole, I can impact enough of a fractional part of it that, I feel are going to listen to me and going to be, impacted by what I can do. And that's enough for me. So here I am talking to you about my career journey.
Yeah, I really love the point where you talked about the pivot. People ask me all the time, how can I pivot? I want to go from finance to IT, or, I want to go from computers to supply chain. The thing that you hit the nail on the head for me with was take your transferable skills and monetize it. Like, I wish I had known this 10 years ago. Because even though I know it intuitively, sometimes just having the right words, I think that will really connect with people on a way to do it, right? Because if it were me, I mean, I've done pivots and I know how to do it, but I just do it intuitively. But that doesn't mean I know how to tell you how to do it. So thank you for that. In command the interview, is there a process? Is there a methodology? Tell me about if I called you and said, I want your help to command my interview, what would be my experience?
Well, it's funny that you should ask me that now, right? Because we are actually, me, when I say we, I mean me. I'm in the process of iterating right now because I was doing one-on-one coaching for a couple of years and I realized that, you know what, this is not sustainable because I'm not hitting enough people and I don't like repeating the same information to different people all the time. I want to be in the work, right? That's always my attitude, right? And the work of this space is going into it with the client and helping them interview. Like it's actually helping them practice. That's the work here in this space. So I had to think like, how do I get to this space more times than not without having to repeat myself over and over and over again? Right? And so that's when I have a business coach and she was like, listen, I know this person that creates learning assets. And I think that you should talk to them because I think that this could be the way that you can get out of that rut, but also achieve your goal of hitting the most people that you can. And so I worked with the producer and we're still in production on a digital workbook, which basically I'm sharing all of what I would tell you in a one-on-one space, but actually even more than that, right? Because in the one-on-one, we're confined by, 60 to 90 minutes. So now the new person will have the option. You can either do the workbook and, see me on video and listen to me and, work through your worksheets. That's it. Or you can do all of that, meet me, let me assess you, and then let's work together in a mock interview style to try to work through whatever kinks might be left after now you've gained the knowledge that you need to actually create your foundation, right? And now let's work through and refine. And that's the work I love, is the refinement of the messaging and the refinement of the communication skills, the refinement of how I'm going to share with you, Mr. or Mrs. Organization, that I am a fit here because I align with what is important to you. So the new client gets this workbook experience, which is very, very detailed. And then you get to work with me if you so choose, and we get to work together to just kind of build a better version of your messaging.
Got it. So what would you say to the job seeker that you've experienced? You're talking to millions of people right now. What's one thing I should stop doing? What's one thing I should start doing? And what's one thing that you see consistent that people should continue to do? Hey, I just wanted to take a quick break to say thank you for tuning into the Vision to Reality podcast. If you're enjoying the show, be sure to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're ready to level up your business or career, I've got some great resources for you. To turn your business vision into reality, my book, Vision to Reality, Start Working, Start Living, is available now and filled with strategies to help you bring your goals to life. Plus, the companion Vision to Reality digital workbook is the perfect tool to guide you step by step through the process. You can grab both at curtisljenkins.com. And if you're preparing for your next job search, check out my book, The Only Job Search Book You Will Ever Need. This book uses proven marketing strategies that have been used for over 60 years to help you rise above competition to land your dream job. You can grab your copy at curtisljenkins.com. And I have great news. This book will be updated with a new version that includes recent impacts on the job search process, such as remote work, AI, government policy changes, and much more. Thanks again for listening. Now let's get back to the conversation.
Okay. So the one thing that you should stop doing is not preparing or practicing for your interview. And what that means is not just, when I say preparation, right? Preparation has to be strategic preparation, right? You have to know how to prepare in order for it to be effective. And so preparation to me is boiled down into two parts. It's Preparation of yourself, meaning go in deep, be introspective, understand who you are and what it is that you bring to the organization that's of value. Understand what your value set is. What is it that you're looking for in an employer situation that will make you happy and make you thrive? Because what I want people to stop doing is stop looking at it like it's a one-way street, right? Where you just have to accept the first company that gives you an offer and that you shouldn't do any research into whether or not this company would actually be a good fit for you as a person. I want you to stop doing that. And I want you to take ownership of the process of preparing yourself for a job campaign. I want you to research yourself. I want you to research the industry, research the company, research the market, research the people that you're going to be interviewing with. And then I want you to start practicing what it is that you're going to be doing when you're actually in the interview space. I need you to talk about yourself. I need you to either go in front of Zoom or any other kind of, electronic medium and talk to it, or find someone that will listen to you and say, hey, can you just slog through this with me? I just need some practice. I just need to hear myself and do it, because you cannot get anywhere in this interview space anymore without being prepared. And a portion of that preparation is practice. That is part of the preparation. Because as we said from the beginning, people think that your resume is that thing. It is a great thing, but it's not that thing. I remember, Curtis, that I was listening to a podcast that you did with Michelle Falcon. And Michelle Falcon talked about how his interview process for his particular businesses was serious, and that the mandatory questions that they must ask up front of any interviewee at the beginning have to do with that company's values and whether or not that individual that's interviewing can speak about them and indicate what resonates with them about those values. And it's only after that point then does he then talk about, well, let's talk about your competencies for the role. And his main point was something that you have said before too, which is business is a team sport. Yeah. Your team represents you in your absence. Your team is your brand, is your company. So how you build that team of people that are invested in your value, in your brand, that's like the most important thing that you can do for your brand and for the success of your company. So he said, look, take it, make it intentional, make it deliberate, make it like you're choosing your mate, right?
Yeah,
because
that's right.
The person that you are going to use to represent your business should be equally as important as the people that you use in your inner circle to represent how you feel supported and how you feel a part of a community. So that's what I wish that people would stop doing, start doing, and to continue to do. Respect the machine. Like, people now know, with the advent of technology and with the increase in the volume of applicants for a particular role, they now know that they can't rely on the tactics that they had before. So I want them to keep, being pumped about that and understanding that this is something that they have to conquer and really being serious about the interview. Like, come now correctly and understand how powerful the interview is in this space and in this time.
Oh, thank you for that. Actually, you kind of set me up for some other questions I want to ask. And you sort of took advantage of a changing landscape in the world of work when you pivoted from being a prosecutor to command an interview, right? You said the pandemic. Well, since the pandemic, so many different things have changed, right? So we had the pandemic itself and remote work. We had this phenomenon of quiet quitting, and that's a different conversation for another time. Then we have technology that you mentioned, artificial intelligence. And then finally, not finally, but from our question set, DE&I and the attacks on it. So I want you to kind of help me first. Let's start with the technology. How has technology changed the interview process, and what do people have to do to be on top of technology to use it to their advantage?
Absolutely. Number one, first things foremost, you have to embrace it. Like, it's not going anywhere. We're not going back to the way things used to work, I should say, because it wasn't really working that well. Now, because technology has made it so easy for people to apply to jobs, it makes the onus on the hiring team that much harder. And so it would be crazy for the hiring team not to employ some tools that would help them manage the volume. So number one, don't be mad at the technology. Embrace it, understand that it's a thing that you have to contend with, right? So with respect to technology and how it works, and if you don't mind, Curtis, I can share a little bit about the applicant tracking system, which is something that people want to talk about all the time.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about what the applicant tracking system is and then what it isn't. What it is technology that is used by employers, small and large, right? To make sure that they can keep track of their applicants. So that means that it's a database, right? Where a centralized hub for the hiring team to be able to go into, to be able to see, well, where is this candidate in the process, so that everybody can be on the same page. It's a system that allows an organization to be more organized, more streamlined, more process-oriented, and more efficient. All of that in the effort to, number one, take the onus off of their hiring team and the pressure, but number two, to make the candidate experience more smooth and more pleasant, right?
Yes.
When you are applying, most times now, unless you have someone that says, hey, send your resume to this email address and it's my personal email address for work, more times than not, you're going to be going into an applicant tracking system. Even if you're hitting the career page of the company and you're saying apply here, it's still going into the database because it's supposed to. I'm supposed to, as the recruiter, be able to manage all of the candidates. I'm supposed to, as the recruiter, be able to say, okay, Curtis is in stage 1. He needs to actually be in stage 4. How do I get him to stage 4? Because I don't want him waiting for on end for an answer, because his life, his progress is dependent on how we utilize our systems. So the applicant tracking system isn't a monster, because what it doesn't do is it doesn't make decisions. It doesn't say, yes, does it have the capability through generative AI to, recommend matches and say that people are percentages, this person is a 90% match? Sure, it does. But my personal, I've seen both types of applicant tracking systems where it does do that, and I've seen the ones where you actually have to go through it yourself. The recruiter, you have to, do a keyword search, figure out what is this person, like, where do they really want to work? Where are they, applying from, right? So as a recruitment team or as a hiring team, right, in order to make the process more simple for the organization and more smooth for the candidate, we have to put in commands and parameters into the software to allow it to help us to move the candidates through the process in a more automated fashion, right?
Got it.
So a lot of candidates will say, well, I applied at like 4:00, and by 4:15, I had a rejection notice, from the employer that I didn't fit the criteria. How is that possible? Are they even looking at it? Well, sometimes there are software, ATS software, that allow the company to create questions that there are some hard stops for some companies. Like, number one, are you 18 years or older? If you're not and you're applying for this position and it requires that age, you're going to get a rejection notice. Are you a person that actually lives in the state, right? Because we want in-person work. Do you live in the state? You don't? Okay, you're likely going to get a rejection notice. Are you a person that can legally work in the United States? Maybe you're not. Maybe that's a hard stop for a company and you're going to get a rejection notice. So it's not that the tracking system made a decision. It's that there are humans that program the parameters for what will be negotiable and what will not be negotiable. And so when you now, in this day and age, as a candidate, knowing that there are layers now, right, to the application process, that the screening process is a funnel, right? And so your resume and your questionnaire, maybe that's the top of the funnel. So you now have to help someone like me, the recruiter, help you by making your resume relevant to what is required to be successful for the role. There are so many resumes that I get that don't have any mention of the industry that we're talking about. You say that this is the industry that you want to be in, but there is nothing on here that indicates that you've done anything in this vein to show a demonstrated interest into the industry, much less this company. So because the volume is so high, the hiring team has less and less time to look and comb through resumes. So make it easy for them by putting your competencies and how you fit and qualify for this role with your credentials at the top, right? So that I can see, like, in the first few seconds, like, okay, this is a person that needs to move on to at least consider for an actual interview.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what the applicant tracking system is and isn't. It is an organizational tool. It isn't an autonomous tool.
And it isn't a person
Nope.
that rejected me,
Nope.
right? Or it's not some monster, because rejection is hard, right?
Yep.
Like, look, you're looking for a job. That's tough, especially the longer you go. And you hear these stories about people feeling rejected and ghosted and things like that. So I'm appreciative of the explanation of what the applicant tracking system is and the information that you're providing to help people with how to at least advance through it. But any notification that you get is not somebody rejecting you. It is using technology like AI to weed out the recruiters or the hiring managers' wishes in terms of who they want to narrow down to interview. Is that a
Yeah, I
good
mean,
way of saying it?
I'm just going to share a real life example of what I
Yeah.
see, right? I have seen in the last couple of years, okay, if I started doing this like 3 years ago in recruitment, right? I have seen maybe for one role, 85 applicants when I first started, right? You fast forward to 2025, for the same role, I have seen 629. I have seen 2,500, right? And this is not over a protracted period of application period, right? This is over the course of weeks. I've actually had within the first 6 days over 1,000 applicants for one
Wow.
role. And I'm
Wow.
like, okay. And so another thing that I want to share with people, people will say that like the job was open yesterday, right? And it said it just opened yesterday, but now today it's closed. Is it really a job? Well, what if on day one, the company got 1,000 applicants? The recruiter might say, look, I can't look through all of this, right? And I can't continue to allow this to roll in because then I'll get overwhelmed. So let me just slow down the pace. Let me go through what I have here first. And then I can reopen it once I've successfully come through this set, because maybe the person that I'm looking for is already in here. Right?
Yeah.
And so let me
Yeah.
do my due diligence first and sift through those that came in first, and let me then see if I need some other candidates as the days move forward. So it's not like it's a fake job. It's that a person exists on the other side of the application that needs to review the application, and they have a bandwidth issue when the volume is this high.
Got it. Got it. So you talked about basically a pinch point, right? And that so many times you see on LinkedIn how people are seriously mad at recruiters, right? You see recruiters getting bashed all the time. So it sounds like if you are writing a letter to job seekers, these are some of the things that you would tell them, right?
Yep. I would absolutely tell them that the technology is not meant to harm them. It's to make the process more smooth for all the parties involved. And the second piece that I would tell job seekers that are equally as mad, I've seen a lot of LinkedIn posts where people talk about the one-way video interview.
Yeah.
And I've seen people say, well, if a company sends me an invitation to interview and it's not with a live person, I'm not even taking that interview. And you know what? That's real. But again, it's not really going anywhere, because
Right.
if I see a job description that has 1,000 applicants, I can't interview 1,000 applicants. I need
Yeah.
to employ technology that will help scale me so that I can answer all of these applications and these inquiries, right?
Yeah.
Rather than leave you hanging for months at a time while you're waiting to, sustain your family, or help your family. Maybe there's some job seekers out there that need money to actually support families that are, they may be younger, but they're older generation. So I don't want to hold up your life because I can't get to you in time, or I can't do as many interviews in a day as I need to, right? So I'm going to employ technology to help the company, see as many people as they can, right?
Yeah.
And filter as many people as they can into the process. And job seeker, the one-way video interview is actually your friend, because it allows you to schedule it within the parameters that they give you. Sometimes they're deadlines, but you can take the interview at 2 o'clock in the morning if you feel that that's where you're at your best. It
Yeah.
allows you the space It allows you the time to even research the company because now you know you've gotten an interview. So now you can like lock in right now and you can focus your energy on that particular company. It's advantageous to the candidate
Okay.
because it takes into account their time and allows them to be heard on their terms and in their circumstances. So I would really venture to have candidates do a mindset shift on the way that they look at the technology and embrace it and use it to their advantage. And that's why Command the Interview is also a differentiator for candidates because the one-way interview is an obstacle for so many people because they don't like to talk to themselves or talk to the screen, right?
Yeah.
I teach people all the time, especially young people. Listen, guys, you look at Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Threads, whatever you look at all day. And what you're looking at are people that are talking to you, but not really because they're talking to a camera. But yet
Yeah.
it's still, they have the power in talking to that camera to evoke emotion out of you,
Yeah.
to either feel
Yeah.
a certain way, have a certain type of belief, or even make a purchase sometime.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you can impact and influence emotion and people's feelings about you even through the screen. Even though they're not on the other side in that moment, they will be on the other side because someone will view the video. Like, they're not making
Yeah.
this, you don't just submit a
Yeah.
video and they're like,
Yeah.
we're not going to look at. No, we're looking at it, but we need time to look at it. So again, it's a mindset shift on how that you view the technology candidates because it really can be advantageous if you just change the way that you think about the process.
You got me thinking. So, because, I love the interview. I'm a perpetual job seeker. I just have this feeling that the way that I position myself is I don't look for jobs, jobs look for me. But in order for me to help people, I still have to do the same things
Mhm.
that people do. And I'm a hiring manager. So I got the lens of, hey, I'm gonna tell you what it looks like and show you what it looks like from this side. But then when I'm interviewing, I know what it looks like and feels like. But for me, if I was asked to do a one-way video, I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna have a camera like we're doing right now, and I might either have a Zoom set up or I might have somebody that's gonna be sitting on the other side because I do need that human connection. It would feel like that nobody's there. And I did one-way interview years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago for a company out in Wisconsin. And it felt weird. But to your point, that ain't going nowhere. Like at that time, that was an anomaly.
Yep.
Now it's the norm. So we gotta adjust. We gotta adjust to it and embrace the technology. That's your message.
Yeah, listen, I remember I had a friend in high school
Yeah.
and, I would listen to my music, with the cassette tape. And she
Yeah.
was like, girl, why don't you just try the CD right here? And I was like, what do I need a CD for? Like, I got to buy a
Right.
whole new player and whatnot.
Right.
And then look what happened.
Yeah.
It
That's
became
right.
obsolete. And I was like, dang, I should have built a CD collection instead of this tape
Yeah.
collection. So it's the same thing. It's with
Yeah.
anything. Like the cell phone, and we used to have a flip phone. Now we have a computer in our hand. Come on, just move with it. Adapt.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. So this other phenomenon that's occurring with changes in technology is changes in policy.
Mhm.
And so DE&I, so first, I want you to describe DE&I from your lens, right? Because I have this conversation a lot and people think it's more like a set-aside program versus what the actual letters mean. But I want to hear from you what it is that you see it as. And then I want you to help me understand, how does somebody navigate in this job search landscape around the attacks on DE&I? What to do, what not to do in their job search?
Sure. Firstly, the way that I look at DE&I is really just trying, from a hiring perspective, right? It's trying to make your workplace or your work environment more reflective of the world that we live in.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We all know that, different experiences lead to different thought, and different thought coming together at the same time creates beautiful things.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
we don't exist in a homogenous society. Innovation and progress don't exist they don't thrive in a homogenous society, right? We need that. Even if you're a company that is not necessarily inviting DEI into your space, you might still be benefiting from the innovation that they're doing from, other people are doing from afar, right? You just don't have them in your close circle of people that you choose to be with on a daily basis. But you know what? We cannot control the way that things are going, right? So we can't plan for that, right? We can't plan for what is outside of our control. And that's why the interview becomes that deciding factor now, even more so than before. Because you have to be prepared that when you do find that company that wants you as much as you want them, that you can bring it, you know what I'm saying, in that moment, and show your value, demonstrate your fit and your alignment, and show how personable that you are on a moment's notice. So I can't candidates to really worry about that anymore. You just need to be more targeted in your search. Like, you can't just, slap your application into any company. You know what I mean? Just don't hit easy apply anymore. Search the company and look and see, well, is this a space where I feel that I'm welcomed? Is this a space where I feel like I can thrive? Is this a space that I feel like would be a good fit for me? Like, now in this state, people really have to take stock into what it is that they are looking for in a workspace and apply for those types of jobs that fit their criteria, not the criteria that they fit for the company anymore, right? That's how people used to, it was very passive. But now you have to be proactive, because what if you get there and you hate it? Then you're in this cycle of job campaigning all over again, which no one likes. So really take the time to determine whether or not this place is going to be for you. And we can't live our life for what could or could not be taken away. We can only prepare ourselves for those moments when we're given an opportunity to enter into the room, bring 100% of what we can at that time. And then the second part of your question, if you want to repeat it, I can fix it.
The second part of my question, I think you answered both parts of the question as it related to DE&I, but I will ask this question. What else has changed in the job search landscape in the last few years from your perspective that you're coaching people to adjust to do, etc.? What is that?
I think that it's rolled into, honestly, I really think that it's rolled into the technology.
Okay.
Because the technology is an additional screener. You know what I mean? And so now the technology adds another layer and adds another obstacle that people, they're just not used to. Again, until they shift their mind to embrace it, they're not going to get over it.
Yeah.
So and you know what? There are plenty of people out there that talk about, the one-way video interview and the ATS and, how to beat it. Well, it's not a beating thing, right? It's presenting yourself as a qualified candidate that's in alignment with the majority of what it is they're seeking, right? So let's go back to a question that you had before, right? Yes, my target audience is Gen Z and people that are entering the job force, right? But I also have a soft place in my heart for a career transitioner, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the career transitioner, I had just had a client literally just like a couple of weeks ago. I had this client who super experienced in his field, right? And, relocated. So he's moving to a new city and he needs to get a job in the same vein as what he had for all those years, right? So he applies to a job that is handling things that are not as lofty as he was once handling, right? So before he goes into the interview, I say, listen, I said, what are some of the stories that you're going to want to tell? And that's another thing that the job seeker needs to do. I'll come back to that in terms of their preparation in light of the technology. I said, what are some of the stories that you're going to tell? And he went through some of these stories. Now, this is a client I've worked with before, so I know their stories. And so I was like, whoa, those stories are awesome. They're totally riveting. However, they are not what you're going to be doing here.
Okay.
You cannot come with the stories of, all of these great things that you did in these high stakes situations when you're not in that situation. If you are going to take on this role, the people that you're talking to have to envision you being in this space and being comfortable and not bored in this space, right? Because they don't want you to not feel fulfilled in taking on this role, and then they're right back in this situation again.
Yeah.
So the cycle is the same for the job seeker and the employer. Everyone is looking for retention and stability. You know what I'm saying? So the employer doesn't want to be interviewing people every 2 months for the same role. They want to build a team that will grow and that will thrive and that will, take their business forward. Every time you do a hiring round, you're setting yourself back a little bit, right? Because you're spending time, energy, and resources on finding a person to fit an area that you once had filled and that was working great, maybe.
Yeah.
So when I told him that, I said, you want to tell stories about things that you have done that are relevant and actually equal in terms of, content, right? Not necessarily impact, but content, right? To what you're going to be doing here. So he went on the interview, and the interview was like a Wednesday. And by the Monday, he got a job offer. And I said, well, you did an interview with another department, same type of role, but a different organization a couple of days before. What do you think was the deciding factor? And he said, just what you said. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
showing them that I can do what it is you need me to do. And I left out all the stories about what it was that
Yeah.
I did in my
Yeah.
past life and that were so great. So going forward, job seekers really need to pay attention to the job description, right?
Yeah.
Because the job description is that roadmap. It's that employer wish list. They know that they're not going to get a person that hits 100% of the points, right? It's not possible, right? But they put it out there because there's people out there that are going to hit a certain percentage of the points, right? In terms
Yeah.
of the skills that they're looking for. But what's going to take them over the hump is going to be their interview skills and their ability to
Absolutely.
communicate all of that. So that's it right there. That's the attitude shift, that you have to be aligned with the company's desires in terms of what they're looking for in an employee on paper, which is your resume. So what you submit in
Yeah.
your paper application has to be in alignment. And then when they say, okay, I like that, let me meet you, then what you say out of your mouth and in your presentation has to be in alignment with what they need and what they feel hits that pain point for them.
So listen, this is a very powerful conversation. Your passion is so evident. You're talking about living who you are. You definitely commanded this interview.
Oh,
And you did it with a lot of confidence, as you say in your quote. And I feel like you made a great connection. I can resonate with everything that you said, being a job seeker, being a hiring manager, and being in this space. So I want to thank you for joining us on this journey. And before I let you go, I want you to just a little bit more about Command and Interview, how people can find you, and then what's coming next for Kerry and Command and Interview.
thank you so much for that opportunity. You can always find me. I'm super on my LinkedIn and I answer people. You can go find me at commandtheinterview.com. And you can learn about, our philosophy, the services that we offer, and really how I coach. Coming up, you're going to see a workbook that you can be with me all the time. It's a living asset that can basically take you through all of your job search from here and in perpetuity, because it's going to allow you to build that database for yourself of your accomplishments so that you can pick and choose what accomplishments you want to talk about in any given arena. I look forward to reaching more people through this particular asset. And I'm excited about the prospect of how many more people I can help in the coming months, years, decades.
Thank you. We'll link all your stuff to our show notes. And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us for another episode of the Vision to Reality podcast. That's a wrap on today's episode of the Vision to Reality podcast. A huge thank you to today's guests. You can find all of their contact information in any resources mentioned in the show notes below. Also, can you do me a big favor? If you found today's conversation valuable, I'd love for you to subscribe, leave a comment and a review, and share with a friend or colleague who could benefit from the information shared today. And remember, vision without action is just a dream. Let's turn those big ideas into reality. I'll see you in the next episode.